they played under Furia.
What a comeback from Cubert again. They had us in the first half, 4-8. Like, what a comp they had to face up, Ash, against M80. It's pretty brave of Cubert to want to attack first into what M80 brought to the table.
Yeah, I think that was what was surprised me the most was Hubert choosing to start on the attacking side when M80 had just such a heavy defense-sided composition. They had really cool plays that they were running with on defense there as well. It was just really strong, like showers and a short control on the defense for M80, where we saw the potency coming out from that showers clear out from Weeded Util with those salvos and cuts being thrown, and then those delayed deadlock walls that were being tossed out by Caillou there as well, and then kind of running down the clock on Qbert in a lot of those rounds, which is what caused that 8-4 half, some of those TP plays where you'd have Okeanos locking down Belong, then he TPs over for that Showers Crunch to try and isolate a Nismo in a lot of these situations, and that was what started them off so strong. And then eventually Qbert, they managed to land themselves on the defensive side and things looked really darn good.
That's exactly what you were mentioning though, Ash. Before we got into this game, it was going to be very difficult for M80 to get something active here on their attack side with the lack of second initiator when you're playing a double controller and the deadlock. And it was almost telegraphed at that point where you're utilizing that KO and that deadlock combination where it almost seems like a deadpan tell when the most common thing now is seeing a deadlock. Remember in the past with Challengers last season, deadlock was very nice with the aggression out of the rest of the combination from like the sky flashes so you could wall back towards the spawn. But now before walling towards the spawn, the first engagement is how do you take control of U-Haul when you're playing with a Yoru and the Rays can't really satchel in, so you need to gain that space. So you're starting in with a grab net and a salvos to take over that area. And as soon as that's avoided from the defensive end, they could fight on the outside extremities through all of these smokes that both Scuba and Knights have done so good on.
Speaking of smokes, like you just couldn't see anything at A when it came to M80's defense. Like, pick your poison. You have to deal with a Viper just jumping in blind at B, or Clove and all types of shenanigans from Deadlock over at the other side. You guys broke it down perfectly. M80's lockdown was insane, but Scuba, I think, was a huge highlight. I think we wanted to talk more about him, Ash, at the beginning, and I think he did all the yapping himself in the game.
Yeah, he definitely did. I think we had insane impact. Big part of how Qbert even got some of the few 4 rounds on the attacking side was netted because of some clutch situations or even just impact picks for like early lurks where he was able to find that success over towards a short alongside his toxic screen. The 3K that we see popping out from him here in this 1v3 was absolutely crazy coming out from Scuba, and it made it all that much more possible, I think, for Qbert to have those few rounds to work with once they swap sides to end up taking this first match home.
And we had pointed out before this match started about just the difference in those, well, the controllers being the Viper now versus Clove and Vans. Scuba and Knight had an important role in just blocking the vision, but they fragged like crazy.
Exactly. As I was scrambling to figure out and scratching my head around why Clove was being picked around this map, I totally forgot it's still Knights that we're thinking about here, right?
Yeah.
Knights, the one that was a one-trick Clove going into the offseason, into Split 3, and was unstoppable here on that second half, at least, of the defensive side for Qbert Academy, because he had so much value. Just, again, Phantom sprays still through smokes, around the middle as well, just understanding when the players were coming through and the timings that he could find. And Scuba, again, just from beginning to the end, attack onto the defense, once again proving why he should be at the top of the chain here in police and partnership as soon as possible, and letting us know letting us know that we're wrong and we're mistaken so far by not signing him into a top team in partnership so far. So these two players have been so good for Qbert Academy, and now you're looking at it from the outside in. If you're looking back at the roster for Qbert Academy, holy crap, do they have a good farm team that they can move up and down between Sentinels and Qbert from Challengers to partnership.
Yeah, you just need that aggressive player to be that Clove, to go and, kill a Viper ult and to go and sacrifice yourself for the team. And Knights has been doing that for Challengers for quite a while, of being one of those pocket Clove players. And it's been really cool to see just the different comps and how those playstyles have clashed. And they're going to clash once again on our next map coming up. And it's going to be split and it's small sites, Ash. It's going to be even more chaotic. I'm wondering what comps we're going to see there.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty crazy. I think for the side of M80, they've run 2 comps on split previously, and running again like that, the double controller situation going on. Previously, they had used the Cypher, I think, with the Astra instead, and then shifting back over to the Viper and Omen comp. Then you've got that like 1-2 punch with the Breach and the Tejo as well, and then favoring the Yoru that we've seen on this map from coming out from like a lot of teams as far as just the ability to TP in and just capitalize on a lot of that space on these small choke points that you're able to gain. And I know that we haven't seen Qbert Academy on this map since their fruition. And what I'm expecting though is I think that we are going to see that kind of a similar story as on Bind, where from Qbert, I am anticipating Redux just to be pulling out that raise, probably looking for that Tejo Breach combination there once again. And I honestly, I quite like the raise in favor of the Yoru when you're looking at that synergy.
I want to bank out on that for sure. I believe that Redux should be playing the Raze on that as well. Just because if you're looking at the nature of how Redux has been playing Agent, has been around that Jet in that Raze, as we've mentioned before, I don't expect the Yoru. And then also just seeing how TSM just performed previously before this matchup and how good Sim was on a Raze and still able to get good space around double initiator. That's actually something that could work quite well here for Qbert Academy, especially seeing Nismo playing that Teo on that previous map. But on the side of M80, they've had good successes out of a very similar comp with that raised double innie, but also finding no success pulling out the Yoru and then you losing it to Nightblade Gaming 6-13 on that map as well. So for me, it kind of just comes to start to show that maybe some of these players and teams that are more comfortable playing on a Raze will find way more value playing on this Raze than a Yoru instead. So I wouldn't be surprised here if M80 reverts back to that.
Yeah, both these teams, Ash, come off very defense heavy, very controller heavy. Are you expecting that Viper mirror? Is it just going back to the Omen as a secondary? Is there a chance for Clove? Like, we're waiting for the agent select, so it's a bit of guessing, but...
I think that I agree with Vans in the Yoru versus the Raze conversation. I feel like for that reason, if you run that and then you're running double controller, like I think that's totally fine. It really depends on the type of play style, the type of control that you want to approach this map with, especially on the attacking side. If you're going to be looking for some of those more like lurk opportunities and whatnot. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Qbert actually running that double controller situation with the Tejo Breach and then a Raze. Maybe a bit of a mirror comp could be expected going into this one, just because I think Scuba just found so much value on that Viper that we just saw. Wouldn't be surprised to see him pulling it out again on a map like Split.
Yeah, and actually wouldn't be surprised as you're asking about the controller here, Jen, that we potentially could see once again a double Clove between Knights and B-Dog. And that's a topic that I haven't had a chance to mention either. When I was talking about in praising Knights playing as a Clove, well, now it's also a non-question as to why B-Dog was playing a Clove on Bind previously as well, because B-Dog used to be, a star duelist for any team that he plays. So to allow to play a little bit of more aggression here with a Clove and being like a mini Reyna, if you're able to get kills and get an overheal on top of that, it brings a lot of power here on what you could do. But for both sides now, none of them will take Cloves. And actually, Knights is pulling out a Sage on top of that. So I'm liking this little, what is this? Is this like 100 Thieves kind of look?
I don't know. They're cooking, though. And I'm worried, Ash, on the M80 side. Last time they went to Split, it was 13-6 against Nightblood. Not in M80's favor. What do you think about this and the Sage and everything?
I think it's a bit hard because, again, it does come down to the ability to close the gap so much faster off the back of the Tejo and Breach utility. But we also saw Okeanos is feeling hot on the Yoru on Bind. Obviously, a very different look because he gets to play around more with those TPs. So I'm going to be looking for them to start off strong here on the defense and be able to run maybe a couple more of those retakes, a couple more of those trap plays to set up Oki for some of those earlier engagements, because it's going to be really important for them to to deny that chance to Qbert Academy to even have Redux take that space early on. You want to contest, so they have to use a bit more of that utility to re-clear, and you cannot afford to be giving up places like the Heaven and Vents up necessarily for free off the back of those combinations, and you want to try and beat a lot of that util.
I'm still kind of down to see Okeanos on this Yoru because he has been unstoppable on that previous map of Bind. Despite both of these maps being race maps, he was popping off on multi-kills and just anchoring as a king, and also popping really great on this Yoru, so I'm not surprised there. But for Sentinels playing the 100 Thieves comp, getting a little bit of a taste of their own medicine where their compatriots over in the VCTs actually lost against 100 Thieves on this comp, I want to know if they're cooking something new in terms of trap plays that is basically possible with the Sage now wielded by Knights.
Well, it is series point for Qbert Academy, one map away from qualifying into playoffs, and M80, it's all up to Okeanos. It's going to be pretty icy out there, all thanks to the Sage, but we'll see how this breaks down. And to get you through all of that, it's Marks and Tenric.
Confidently considered compositions on both sides. Okeanos opting for that Yoru to open up the lower spaces as opposed to the higher more often so that M80 can play keep away for the long term. Meanwhile, Sentinels Qbert Academy, they are better than you. They will show you how much better than you they are. They will fight in the great wide unknown, and Redux will go 4 miles away from where the spike is being planted. Marks, 2 differing play styles, 2 teams that want so desperately to be the Godslayers that everyone is claiming they are. And for Qbert, they're 1 map away from proving.
Yeah, and once again, like the Desk was kind of talking about, M80's bringing in a little bit of baggage for this one. Given the fact that Split hasn't really gone well for them, I'm curious to see how they're going to fare on it. Of course, it is worth mentioning that M80, their defense sides have looked pretty good, but it's on the offense that they just seem to simply fall apart. And to Vanzili's point as well, playing those more trap-like plays, given this composition coming in from Qbert Academy, to me, those trap plays work if you've had the time to iron a lot of that out. Given the rambunctious style that we've seen Qbert Academy kind of play with, if they took the time to work through a lot of this, then I think that there's a lot of potential that this composition can play off of. Otherwise, if things are even a little bit disconnected, it could be a lot dicier, and a lot of that utility might not even get the value that they're looking for. So I'm very excited for how this one is going to be shaken out. Qbert Academy does start us on the attack, and M80 already exploring defensively up mid.
When we asked how good these teams can work together, these teams said, bet, individual execution, got it, let's do that. Scuba, as the one universal controller for this Qbert squad, has the world on his shoulders, and he will use it to take the one approach as the 4-stack launches their way up through vents and begins one fast invasion. This is exactly the tempo that we were hoping they would execute with, but that leaves M80 tempted enough to try to scope out Scuba, and he's gonna have to bluff himself out with this Nebula as he's sprayed down to just 13 HP. Knowing that this is the only controller that M80 has to deal with, they will go hunting for this and then deal with the rest of the fight that Qbert still hasn't exactly won yet. We did with the trade for 1, and they still control the tower. The stealth drone, though, is too much to bear, and Nismo and Redux both get theirs. Now we're on the track back over to A site, which is more open.
What the heck was going on? Everyone was running around the map, chasing one person one way, chasing the other person one way. Qbert Academy first decide to go A, decide to go B, swing back to A, back to B, and now they're at A, planting that spike. A lot unraveled on that single pistol round, but now Qbert Academy, they've got the numbers advantage. Caillou as well, very low health here, so Knights should be able to at least get a 1-tap, but has more than enough defense here as the Knights gets one, forcing bound forwards.
Panic shells from Redux, it doesn't matter, he can land it with the shots to finalize, and so Qbert keeps who's standing for that pistol round. But yeah, that covered all of the bases of what we were looking for that Qbert composition. Now we ask, how does M80 adjust? How do you collapse even further than you did onto someone like Scuba and then find the momentum from there to still carry on the fight with the same strength? Because if Qbert lose Scuba, it's clear they don't intend to work with a comp like him once that smoke is lost. They intend to plant that spike and go back out and fight you.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, I think that when they go out and try and fight people, that's where we get to see Qbert Academy really thrive. Assuming that that is the full intention, I think they place their utility very intelligently to make sure that those fights that Redux takes work out fantastically. Val still hanging out on the site, only a classic in hand. albeit a Sentinels classic in hand. Kind of funny when you think about it like that. But M80 a little bit more aware of this presence in heaven that Cubert Academy have taken. So they're slowly just watching these longer range angles, seeing if there is going to be any of that over rotation that is a little bit more characteristic of Cubert Academy.
Still no huge noise made by M80 here. The wall is put up on the vents to prevent that peak from being too strong. But it's only now that Cubert decide to actually walk onto the site. They really want to make sure everything's clean, especially with a sun like that. And Bao and Okeanos do find early collection. Still, though, the Army has made it onto site, and M80's rotation a little late, but still, they find the heaven angle and are able to grab one kill before the salvo plays keep away. Another 2v3 now for Cubert Academy to try to manage, and they will start early. Redux with that gun diff, spraying down Caillou. Weeded and B-Dog walking on back from that screen presence, and B-Dog already ahead of it. We did nice chokehold to be able to grab the one, and Redux with the trade-off. That shuffle that Cubert was looking for previously starting to pay off and get a little faster, but 25 HP, he's got to be the one to find the spray. And B-Dog has a bloody Vandal to his name too. If he finds that angle first, it is curtains. Gets onto site for free here as Redux knows how limited the space he has is, but B-Dog is just going to give himself away with these steps on the spike. No point in waiting at this stage. Paint Shell's on top of it. B-Dog skates it, but a huge whiff leaves Redux the one moment to re-up and grab a 4K and save Cubert that second round.
Yeah, a great job coming in from M80 on that retake there. Keep in mind, they lost the first missile round, so they were just using their classics to go in. The utility comes through perfectly. They just kind of hold their ground, wait for that repositioning to come out. Bao being that instrumental player who somehow stayed alive the entire time on the site. But of course, who else but Redux to make sure that that clutch comes through, finding 4 kills that round to make sure that Cubert Academy get that second. Redux at least able to carry one rifle forwards. This will force Cubert Academy to fully invest on this third round instead of going for any bonus whatsoever. But if Redux gets one more ultimate orb, that's going to be the showstopper online, and that M80 defense could easily fall apart.
Cubert Academy have the blueprint to snowball this half already. M80 have all the reasons to stop it right here, and they will maintain their default hold as Cubert Academy reconsider outside of that first TP. Still, though, the crunch is active, and Scuba once again isolated with this hold, trying to put the stars down first and then fight a little bit after the fact. Very sequential this attack intends to be, and so far, so fine, but by the skin of their teeth. And so they will opt for the mid control this time around, go for that long game that they are able to play into their snowball. Knights fielded out by the flash and forced to remain on the choke. But M80 could easily be split apart here. That's why you see Caillou holding it down here on the steps, making sure that Cubert can't get the drop on these two. Paint Shells do allow the window open, though, and there's the showstopper available from Redux. A little bit of time on the reset, and meanwhile, Knights is able to go for one. Okeanos, though, able to shut that down, and T-Dog as well. That's the spike ISO'd. And while sight is controlled, M80 have every reason to wait until they wander into their sight lines. Caillou, beautiful double kill in nanoseconds. And Scuba alone for a reason, I suppose, because now he stands with the clutch in his arms again.
10
waltz
seconds
around.
left.
No one knows where he is. He is definitely able to grab one if he can get the pounce, but Weeded's already on the prowl. This should be all said and done for the bonus, regardless of where Scuba decides to prowl. So I don't think he'll go anywhere. Yeah, he's just going to stay put and hold on to this one rifle that Cubert is going to call their own and try to carry into what snowball they can still find, because that was all the momentum they were trying to carry into the attack half for its remainder. And now it's going to take a little more work to get back to a place where you can get that streak going.
And just excellent job from M80. Really biding their time, finding their single individual kills, not overextending themselves, most importantly. And it's these moments where they're able to find those multi-kills that things just turn around. We get to see Caillou there, but of course Okeanos as well, finding two outside, shuts down that spike. Cubert Academy just had nowhere to look. And keep in mind, that was the showstopper invested and finds no value whatsoever. Bao just on the other side now, has this Bucky in hand. I'm all here for a little bit more Bucky gaming, and looks like the salvos will at least attempt to flush him out.
This is already a great start for that spacing. M80 playing even more respectful somehow here. But it's all so they can clutch that attack when it starts, and so far their timing on it has been pretty decent. Just comes down to completing on the fight. Bonbao remaining in the tower. He is going to be the one constant here with this shotgun in hand. They're just cycling through that utility to make sure that Qbert Academy can't push elsewhere more efficiently. Looks like it'll be a vent push to start.
Oh,
but
that's so smart.
yeah, that stealth drone is going to do a lot of slowdown, and M80 again backing out. They'll hear this push, but what can you do to stop it? We did standing alone on top of it. Massive util dump that we did just indoors and grabs 2. Now Knights has to try to save the day. And even with util in his hand, we did stays alive for far too long. Scuba with the re-up, but Caillou is able to edge out one more peek on Anismo before yet again our controller stands alone.
Oh, Bao just had the opportunity to get a bucket kill, but decides to back off. Doesn't matter. Scuba goes down onto the site. The noise is heard. 2 people here and ready to go. Caillou finding that kill, but just an excellent hold coming in from M80, denying Qbert Academy from really gaining any space whatsoever. It seems like they've got the read on when they want to go aggressive, and they just take a simple step back and hold their ground with utility ready to go as soon as they're ready to engage.
Exactly how they should have held that down. We did, of course, you know, no real way of getting back out in that situation, but as long as you grab yours, you are good to go, and that was what Qbert was relying on not happening. That's the reason they will falter yet again, and they will now stick to a full bread eco, which is why I'll see Okeanos now hold on to that outlaw instead to save a little bit of creds. Oh,
and they just slowly move up.
Okay. That provides way less power to Okeanos outlaw, and they're able to just swarm Bonbao. Tower completely under Qbert's control already, and the Armageddon is preventative, but also way too late. Qbert's already on site, buddy, and B-Dog can lock down the shots just once before Nismo gets that adopted new angle. It's a Rolling Thunder trying to play for the defense now, but the Armageddon on the cross-section, so you can't re-enter, and Redux can just play keep away. Exactly how Qbert wants to operate on a push like this, where they don't even have to plant the spike yet. They're still going for the fight. At least what remnants of it are left. Util now time back out. Caillou and we did simultaneously have their full kits back up, but they're not exactly in the same spot. We did still, or Caillou is still double checking to make sure there's no flank, and the Salvo's gonna force out we did before there's the double peek. And so another stinger kill on the side of Qbert Academy. Caillou in the 1v4 that he is forced to try to aggress to try to keep Qbert from getting that snowball going again, but here it comes a-rollin'. 3-2 as Qbert take the lead, and 3 rifles plus.
Amazing calls coming in there to use Nismo's utility to a T. Every single time we saw something come out from that Tejo, it forced a repositioning of one of the members of M80 just to simply walk in onto site and have themselves gunned down. B-Dog did an excellent job at trying to hold things down for as long as possible, but at the end of the day, honestly, just playing off of Nismo utility, it was absolutely disgusting. Amazing coordination coming in from Qbert to force M80 into very uncomfortable positions.
And they're just not able to do that every time. It's just, again, it comes down to the individual mistakes. And all too often, it's been these close quarters controllers that, again, take so much of the brunt of that punishment. Here's Bonbao with that shotgun again, and it'll be heard this time thanks to that boombot getting launched up. Caillou attempts to find a pick in case Qbert swung early. They will not, so we re-up the smoke again, and we go once more with this default hold, but M80, they're getting a little antsy. They're going to try and push Okeanos up here with the stealth drone, and it'll almost work. He's got the space, but yeah, no reason to really press this anymore, and Scuba can say the same. He'll just duck back into the sewer, rise back up, go for the fight again, and miss again. And we start all over once more. A lot of time wasted, but not really a lot of change made on the side of Qbert Academy. That being said, the stack is making their way over to this A peak, and Okeanos has yet to move, so they're able to get the drop on him here. It would be absolutely massive. There it is.
That's what we were expecting, and given the fact that they were really expecting that Yoru to be the anchor there, now it should be pretty easy. Qbert Academy, once again, very easily going into heaven, and just so aware of the threat that Bao could pose immediately after shocking that angle, and here's the engagement.
We did good for the one shot, and there's a nice spam from the screen, so Knights is going to actually throw this wall up. I love it to split this board in half, and so B-Dog's the only one to get the execution on top of it. Great saving of the kit to alleviate what was, for a moment, the biggest danger point in that round. Even still, Qbert looked way stronger the whole way through.
Wow, Tenrek, I'm not sure if you saw how close that got down to the clock, but there were only a couple seconds left, and if M80 had any more utility, they could have really stalled it out. Qbert were playing it a little bit too close to the clock that time. And you can see the panic coming through. Knights has to toss up the barrier orb to make sure that there's some sort of avenue to make it safely in, to plant the spike down. But once again, what a strange couple of rounds are going so far. It's so close between these two teams.
And this is really a back and forth that again just comes down to each player making sure that they stay as clean as possible. And so far in this past 2 rounds, M80, those players have come up short in that individual moments, and Qbert Academy have been able to just pile drive on top of it. Still though, clutches can come from anywhere, and I mean, so can good team composition, so can good communication. And we've seen these moments in the maps on both sides really where teams just suddenly gain this understanding of how to fully function beyond just the pre-plant, and the improvisation becomes a lot more fluid. 2 ults on the side of M80 for this potential retake, which they know might have to just be one. Qbert, they are changing absolutely nothing. Scuba staying in the sewers, 4 stack up the B line. Ain't no reason to deviate just yet until Okeanos snipes you, but that's what the fault line and the salvos are for. Redux on the Russian, and Okeanos is down to 8 HP.
Yeah, that was a crazy combo play, but once again, just a really good understanding of how to play off of that Tejo utility. Redux almost got the kill there. Okeanos able to escape, keep that operator alive, but it's so much more difficult to find anything. Look at this, Qbert Academy. They poke and prod and immediately just reposition themselves. They've been doing an excellent job at controlling this mid area, but more importantly, have been learning from their mistakes. Every single time they go in, they look just a little bit more coordinated. And this time around, it might be Bao on the receiving end, as it looks like they're potentially going into B heaven.
Here.
This is not an angle that Bao has taken just yet. Okeanos is still forced to watch down the garage site. Both of them are protected by their own, by the opposing Cosmic Divide, though. Bell fielded out the first time. That's going to prompt the salvos out against the paint shells from Redux. So tower is re-cleared by Qbert. This operator is still fully functional, and Okeanos' timing is his greatest enemy. Bao taken care of. Now Caillou playing bodyguard, only good for 1. Rest of M80 trying to scroll on a sight. And Okeanos, dimensional drift to pick up the rifle to keep this fight as even as possible. But B-Dog is still alone here, and he's good for his. Scuba all of a sudden alone against 2 rifles, and that's his... That's sublime adaptation from Okeanos to make this fight advantageous for M80 again. What a shift that took immediately on site to give M80 the round.
I love the pace that Qbert Academy are playing, where they make you think that they're going explosive and then immediately just slow things down absolutely.
Yep.
And it's so quiet, and you can tell M80 are a little bit more uncomfortable. But as these rounds continue to go, M80 are starting to recognize that fact and are starting to just be ready, brace for impact a little bit more. I mean, obviously a very flashy play coming in at the end. Okeanos barely able to escape with the dimensional drift, but really the success of this round simply came because M80 braced themselves for impact. It's a fast one already, and Redux is going in, and will trade with B-Dog.
Post stall, he's able to at least grab the shot, but Knights has that res available, so it's still a 5v4, and Scuba has gotten so much faster this time on the lurk. Mounting that speed in that second kill, no more controllers here for M80, and that might already decide the round, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so. At this point, you're M80, you're just looking to potentially, well, first of all, save that operator here. Maybe find an exit kill on the way out. Just dampen the economy of Qbert Academy just a little bit. But, you know, it's weird. It feels like they conditioned the other team to expect them to go explosive and then stop. But this time, there were simply no breaks. They stormed onto the site, understanding that they had Knights with the Resurrect online, can bring Redux back in. Redux gets a kill with the Showstopper, and there's just simply no room for M80 to even breathe this round before the spike is down and they have to call for the save.
Yeah, Qbert's tempo shifts have been lightning fast, and so have their pushes for the most part. M80, they are aware of that, but in those little breaths that Qbert takes are the moments in which they find that advantage again, outstretch that space. And M80, there's no real response to it other than getting the kills at the right moment. And the only one that was able to really do that this round was B-Dog, and that's because he was sitting in front of the boxes and Redux entered with a Showstopper. So circumstantially, that's not going to happen every time.
You know, in another world too, B-Dog was able to get that kill onto Redux without the rocket being fired off. It was that trigger discipline that didn't quite work, but a very characteristic. Already, it's going to be a lot going in, but B-Dog repositioning, so smart, still alive.
And the Boombot not catching him, but the double swing will. Great attempt from B-Dog to avoid all of that, and I mean, he technically did, but still too much on site. Meanwhile, Bon Bao with his Viper's Pit, making sure that Scuba is not lurking. Still so much uncertainty for this M80 takeover, but they'll have to just make it work. Okeano's still operator in hand. Immediate stun that Redux can collect upon, and he turns onto Okeanos as well. The reflexes on this guy, unbelievable. And he'll go for more. He is hungry as can be, but we did the crawl up. Redux is expecting it. Timing. Is it unfair, lady? Bao, though, now picking up the operator. This is a bit of a risk considering, Cubert's already here for the action, so maybe should have just gone for the one more kill, but Cubert, they have 6.
Yep, Cubert, that once again, that was just a very fast take onto that site. M80 simply just did not have time to react. B-Dog able to escape. Great use of that Omen utility to make sure that that Shadow Step ensured you don't get pinged up by the Armageddon or the flashes, but there were just simply too many agents on site. And if you're expecting Cubert Academy to miss their shots, that's not how you want to be living your life, buddy. And so B-Dog gets taken out immediately. But of course, look at Redux in the kill feed. 16 kills already, leading by a massive margin compared to any other player in this lobby. Redux has been lighting up, and this is the performance we expected to see from this duelist.
No doubt. This is the enabling that we were looking for, and the rest of the team, they are firing as well. T-Dog also, to be fair, looks so much more comfortable on Breach than he does Sky. He is completely in his element at this stage, and on this map, one of the many reasons why Cubert probably opted to shift from that Pearl pick. They understand they are at a new level of enabling now, and it's not just Redux that has to act. And not only that, he feels a lot more comfortable acting on this raise, evidently. 3 stack up the A-line as the spike is in tow. B-Dog still holding very respectfully along the garage peak as there's 2 members on that end too. And 50 seconds to go. Cubert can really go anywhere they please as long as they don't mess up. They're gonna check for B-Dog here, no doubt. Yeah, B-Dog's gonna walk into it, but B-Dog shots are clean. Only good for the one as Nismo now has to rush on with the spike behind him, but M80, they're gonna be more than ready for this.
Yeah, M80 already going around. Stealth drone does explode though. And I think Nismo might be trying to get the Armageddon online. They're at least feigning like this is going to be the B side. T-Dog able to find one as well. But look, the spike already onto that A site at this point.
Yeah, they're fine with letting these players go so long as they get those kills just because of the gun diff still pervading. But that's now really shifted. 2 of these players still have rifles. But site's overtaken by Cubert Academy and M80. They only have the full stack to work off of. Meanwhile, smokes are going to be available on the cycle back for Scuba in just a moment here, so the window is short for M80 to aggress now. Being said, they still have all of this to clear, and there is indeed that smoke. Same clear as any, breach flash out of the screens, and Cubert are entirely hiding behind it. They have the Nova Pulse, they have these salvos, which they will use first, and it's a lot of stall work that can be done to collapse into the fight. And as heaven is held, Knights and Nismo are able to clean house. 7-3 on the post plant for Cubert Academy. Tremendous adaptation.
Yeah, and once again, like this, you can just see the mind games as they unravel for Cubert Academy. They go in on B super hard again. It draws the entirety of M80 over onto that B site because they're expecting yet another fast push. Based off these last couple of rounds, that's exactly what happened. And, well, B-Dog at least able to just take one head off, but at the point where the fight on that B site was more or less concluded, Cubert Academy had already gotten themselves nice and set up. Plenty of time to get the spike down on that A site. So just a good adaptation coming in from them. And B-Dog now just on the other side of that smoke. Could have found some value here, but it's needing to start soft.
And he's got 2 for himself as well. That allows even more aggression from the remainder of M80, and B-Dog is able to turn on a Redux's entry out of the smoke. Counteracted pretty quickly, but 3v2, M80 is pretty content with that at the moment. No smokes available, just these initiators to try to make the headway. So it's all got to be in the one and done fight. But Okeano shuts down the back end of it, and Nismo already choked up against this ledge. Good for the one on the head. Now Kayuda next to peek it out. Has the stun available too. That'll slow them both down. And Bon Bao still a little nervous after all these interactions have gone awry. Nismo the back away, still good to save himself, and he does have the spike. Could feign a rotation or fully fledged go for it. Has 50 seconds on the clock to do whatever he pleases.
But keep in mind too, an Armageddon online for Nismo.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of potential here to stall things out or at least deny a lot of that space if you want to use it onto this round. Meanwhile, on the other side, the fault line going to be activated again. Caillou still has a flash available as well as that aftershock. So a lot of breach utility. I like the way that Nismo's playing this go. Goes for a little bit more forward aggression, might catch a timing.
This is one of the moments in which you have to take that chance, and he will hear both of these stepping up. It's the double swing that Nismo holds all the way down! He hits that every time! No ult necessary! And now 1 round to go in the half where Cubert Academy look unstoppable on the attack. Everything they have an answer for.
Yeah, it's so good coming out from them. That last round, it really looked like there was going to be an opportunity for M80. They were just, honestly, just hiding in heaven, able to take so much value off of these players, just kind of swinging out here and finding kills, and yet simply were not able to capitalize on it. Oh, it's so painful to watch for B-Dog, but unfortunately, Nismo just a little bit wiser to it. We saw a lot of crouch walk swings yesterday, and that might have been the answer to make sure that that's going to happen. But unfortunately, Nismo clutches up the round for Cubert Academy. Or, you know what? Fortunately, Nismo clutches up that round because this makes this lead for Cubert Academy just feel a lot more solid.
This is looking really like a decisive half, and of course, we set that with Bind as well. So it's only a matter of time before side swap, and we might see M80 have the same explosivity that Cubert does here on the attack.
I got this.
Being said, very carefully checking back again and again, and B-Dog getting more aggressive than ever on this wraparound, but Nismo expects it! Dr. Seuss the way he read it. And now we're chilling back in the garage like nothing ever happened, except it's a 5v4.
Oh, that stealth run's going to give away Okeanos' position as well. Such a good read coming in from Cubert here. We're seeing the showstopper now. Thankfully not wasted on that clone. There's a lot of utility, and the Armageddon come through as the rocket goes wide, not able to find anything except a lot of damage on the Caillou.
Backside continues to be no man's land, but Cubert continue to play on the front lines of it, and they'll manage both those kills on site. Again, no trade-offs, no dirty work, just a little bit of health shaved off Nismo, and that's all they get. Now we did on the flank, and again, Cubert are ready for it. Are they back? Dude, back? Straight up. This is insane game sense coming from these players, and again, so much of it is allowed to be individualistic. That's what's making Cubert so rocket-powered right now. Is each of these 5 players is so allowed to have a blank canvas with how they approach this post plant.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we've seen M80 do a lot of these types of plays, a lot of these like very fast rotations on the flank, very fast cut throughs around, trying to catch timings onto their players. And I think that Cubert were doing an excellent job at getting the read on making sure that they just hold that. Because when Cubert decided to just kind of let them do their own thing and focus in on their execute strategy, that's where M80 are able to catch their backs and find those picks. So just a little good adaptation coming in from Cubert Academy, making sure that they're always watching their flanks, because that is where M80 like to push in and like to go and find those kills. So a great job coming through as this 9-3 half.
Redux getting aggressive off rip here for the defense. Will open up with 1, and no one is able to punish a blinding speed from the Raze instead of the Yoru, who now double up after T-Dog goes down. But Bao will be able to trade that out. So a 3v3 as M80 waltz onto site with much less in their way. But now Nismo, another wrap around himself. B-Dog keeping the back seat though, and no one's checking for him except for Knights, but he's gonna be a little too late for it. Nismo outside the corner, and Knights can't cover it. And again, these microcosms outside of Spike dictate how the fight on top of it goes. Caillou walks into a barrage of Cubert members and can't kill one instantaneously. Never mind, there you go. There's the opener, and now the wrap-up from B-Dog himself. Good for 1 as well. And that'll be an M80 pistol with 3 standing.
And I think that that's the reason why, if you are Cubert, you got to always watch for every single little position. B-Dog was an excellent example of that. If they're not clearing everything, then they could get surprised by a player just popping around the side and able to find a couple of kills. It was such good early aggression, very well coordinated coming in from Redux, but the flood through from M80 made sure that they didn't go completely for free. And that B-Dog's being able to stay alive and find a couple of picks as well was the nail in the coffin to make sure that M80 win that pistol round. 5 rounds separate these two teams. M80 starting to get a little bit more momentum back into their sails. But still, they have to continue to play things pretty much perfectly if they want to be able to win out this map.
Yeah, the road is not yet fully paved for M80's attack. Still need to find more than just these concepts that turn into frags. Far closer than Cubert's attack has been so far.
Toxins
Of course.
going up.
Much less of a sample size, to be fair to them.
Poison orb emitting.
Bout,
Toxin screen
aggressive
down.
lurk up here with a ghost, no less. Doesn't even have the rifle to his name. But it's worthwhile space thanks to the screen and the orb. As he can set up for the exit on the ramp, or he can just say, hey guys, A-side's looking pretty juicy right now. Why don't you head on over here?
It's a trap. Or at least that's what I
Yeah.
imagine they're going to be calling at a moment's notice, because there are 4 members of Cubert Academy hanging out here.
Yeah.
And this noise that they're making too, Cubert has to know that this is going to be where M80 is coming.
This is really ballsy from M80.
30 seconds left.
Necessarily ballsy from Cubert Academy, but they'll step out and they'll begin to frag. Redux good for the 1, and he's still not covered yet.
What?
Still not covered as Caillou goes down next. He is still dancing around these screens with just a ghost in hand. And the blast pack, but oh my goodness, B-Dog. If only Redux was not fully blinded off that paranoia. Still one standing as T-Dog continues to try to
10
field out from the
seconds left.
screens, but very little he can do at this stage in the fight. That being said,
Last
taking
player
down 3
standing.
members, make it 4
Yikes.
T-Dog! All of a sudden this is visible. A right click dealing minimal damage, and nothing left in the util tank. Spike planted as well, and so it comes down to the raw pistol brawl of all things. That hands M80 another attacking round again by the hair on Nismo's head, dude.
It shouldn't be like this. By all means, if this is just one of those games where you're like, okay, you know, we know how this goes. This pistol round, yeah, second round, oh, it was nice and easy for them. Yet, that was a very difficult round for M80 to be able to pull off here. Honestly, just the fact that they flooded in here and somehow Redux is able to find so many heads, it requires so much utility to just shut Redux down, and then somehow T-Dog is able to find a classic headshot to nail it down to that 1v1. Not an ideal scenario at all for M80. They have to invest on this round because they know that they don't have the weapons and they might just get outclassed. Already, the salvos are being traded just outside of A as M80 reflexively get themselves ready to back out of this site. Cubert go for that early util dump, but it's all good because once again, this is all regenerative utility. It'll be ready to go at a moment's notice.
And that stealth drone to clear to confirm that A site is no longer occupied. Cubert can pay most of their attention to this mid push that M80 is now making a lot of noise on, and yet they still don't make any ground or get a kill off of it, and so we'll continue our window shopping. Let's head over to Garage and see what we can find, see if any member of Cubert is holding up early. Spoiler, they're not. Scuba's a mile away behind the woodworking, but granted, he is quite by himself, and that's been his undoing so many times so far on that attacking side, the few times that Cubert did lose it.
Scuba's such an X factor. You can tell that they're going to try and sell this fake right now. Okeano's going to be the one flashing in and dropping down the decoy to assume that that's going to happen. But look at the discipline here. Redux,
30
so
seconds left.
careful, waiting for them to push. And now the time crunch says that M80, their hand is forced. They must go onto this A site.
No ramp control thanks to the smokes, and Redux's shot does land, but most of the members of M80, actually no, 2 of them, stand at that full HP. The first one to walk into it is the one who can take the shot, but now we just spam
10
through that
seconds
smoke
left.
as there's 10 seconds to go. There is no more opportunity for M80 to get onto site here, and Cubert wrap up that bonus. Super clean, keep it 4 standing, and now up to double digits.
It's like they took so much time to do anything onto that B site. By the time the execute was happening onto A, they were just left standing. And they had nothing to clear out long. The salvos already go out, and yet still M80, they were quivering in their boots. They didn't even take a single step onto that A site. Also, too, a little bit of utility from Cubert Academy makes sure that that has happened. But then, given the time crunch going in, M80 had no time to even check or clear the site. They just had to go on blind faith that they were going to find it and be able to get that spike down. What a crazy round coming in, but Cubert, once again, are just running away with it.
It is really unclear how M80 approaches the remainder of this because Cubert is entirely built out of not giving anything away at this stage in the game, or at least conditioning that you have the ability to do it. And you gotta shout out Knights' Sage pick because of that, the ability to just throw down a slow orb any which way to split the board instead of a salvo. It allows so much more flexibility with how you can stack and where you can stack. Cubert, they're using that to the utmost advantage as M80 feel pressured on every front they try to enter. Being said, they're doing it a lot more as a group. We have yet to see some real big 2-3 choke splits or any long-winded defaulting because the clock has already been their worst enemy anyway.
And look at this, Tenrek. Like, Redux, this is just a stats game right now. 23 kills and 12 deaths. I'm so curious what the ACS is going to be after this map because it's going to be so damn high. For us to see it now, Redux coming in with the judge, 1 away from getting the showstopper online. And I feel like I've said that a million times, but that's just how many kills and so how much value Redux has been getting for Cubert Academy thus far.
Yeah, he's just perpetually so.
A perpetual ult machine.
With the help of Knights' wall, Redux can more confidently hold this judge peak on the vents to try to farm this showstopper early. And if M80 decide to funnel into this, then he's definitely going to get a kill with it. Which is why Cubert is so heavily applying that this stack is the important one. The salvos will actually feel that away, and Okeanos attempting the entry, but Redux just getting right back on top of it and silencing it before Caillou is able to trade it away. So no showstopper for the post plant. That being said, M80 still have yet to get a good pre-plant going. Hell, they're waiting outside the garage door as Bon Bao has yet to even clear past his own toxic screen. M80 not really worried about space. They're still worried about kills first, but again, Cubert are refusing to give any of them away easily.
Yeah, and like, look at this. They have to go into this Astra, who's just ready to spray things down.
So tough
only
on the
classics save. And pistols on the side of M80 here. And Nismo finds Bao as well. That's not how you want this thing to start off.
30 seconds left.
Just some spamming here from Scuba on top of a gravity well to prevent the in, but B-Dog's TP, that'll get shut down by Knights, and yeah, Cubert have the laundry list pretty much completely covered from here. Weeded does get away with a quick peek after Scuba gets timing, but that'll be all, and Cubert now 2 rounds away from moving on to playoffs.
Yeah, we talked about how Split was going to be the weaker map for M80, and that's why that bind pick was going to be so important for them to win out, because otherwise we expected Cubert Academy to just kind of run away with things, and Cubert Academy very much living up to expectation. A little bit of a, you know, shoulder-to-shoulder bump there, but actually it works out well for both the duelists. You come out with just a 1-for-1 trade, and yeah, it's still M80 just really struggling to get their foot into the door. Every time they walk into the site, it's like they don't have really anything to work off of. And now Redux, very aggressive showstopper, finds B-Dog and is happy with that, so we'll just back out of it.
And again, unpunishable thanks to Knights' insane slow orb on top of that. They were so ready for someone to get ahead, whether it was B-Dog's or Oki's TP, and they were 100% right. Again, the reads are so there this time around, and so much credit has to be given to Dapper on that. The man has been watching this team.
And also, too, I think this is an important time to point out the difference between the Sage and the Vise, because a lot of people think, oh, you know, Vise, that's Scuba. The one you want to go. It's just a little bit better, but there's no deploy time on getting the Thorn Barrier out there. Versus the Slow Orbs, immediately, as soon as it touches the ground, will deploy. There's no opportunity for someone to shoot it out. So it's just kind of that, like, faster play that if you want to play off the trap, that's going to be Sage.
Huge post by Von Bao, but the rest of the push has to be as strong, and they cannot make it work. Weeded the only one standing outside of that, and now Cubert can compress on the remainder. Weeded good for 1 more as well, but that may be the last chance M80 has at making this game possible. It's a 12-5 lead for Sentinels Cubert Academy, and they have everything they could want. An Armageddon, a res to make it a 6-5. M80, though, they are able to make this cycle happen as long as they get something going. The problem is they just haven't gotten anything going, Marks.
No, like, that's the thing, too. Like, it feels like every time they're walking in, Cubert Academy are just so prepared for any sort of attack that's going. We're seeing a very similar pattern to their attack, where immediately they just kind of send Redux in. They send Redux far in and deep, and then immediately back out. And so then they lose all this space, and M80 has to clear it again, which is making it so difficult. B-Dog going for the deep back TP to add a little bit of confusion to Scuba, but it is a very fast storm by M80.
This is the speed that they were trying to approach with before, and this time they meet far less of an interception. That is the moment to engage. Now Cubert fully stacked on top of the tower for this retake that they know is going to take a lot. So do they even decide to invest that much, or do they see how much they can squeeze out of M80 along the way? We'll see how much of a trade it ends up being, but Redux is, of course, going to be the first to
goodness.
engage with it on that low ground. Looks like Nismo's going to let this Armageddon go, and a Rolling Thunder proactively to prevent that kind of action on top of it. B-Dog good for the 2 kills, but now Cubert can jump on top of it, and Weeded
way,
can't get
Nismo.
nearly as much action done. I don't know how Nismo hits both of those, but he's hungry for more. Gets on top of the spike and just jumps into this pit. Easy shutdowns from the remainder of M80, so Scuba could try and go for the wraparound. It was a desperate play in the far corners of the Viper's pit to try and get as much out as possible, including the round. But at the end of the day, M80 will make 6.
And keep in mind, too, that round could have been won by Hubert if they wanted to. Nismo had the Armageddon online. That is an excellent tool to fish out any pesky Viper that may be hiding inside of that Viper's pit. Decides to hold on to it, allowing for that ultimate to be carried over here. We're seeing now M80. They're going to be buying up rifles. Okeanos has been having a very difficult time going up against the Redux and squad because, well, that Yoru isn't really getting as much value this time around. Every time the Yoru pops out, it tends to usually be that first one, and Okeanos goes down without really finding any kills. This has been a very tough map for this duelist.
And now he's got that shotgun that he has to find a kill on with this dimensional drift. He's going to play it mega early to try and get ahead of this slow orb and try to hunt down Knights. No, he just sees Knights. Now he wants Scuba instead. And on top of the fault line, he's going to make it happen. Amazing fight taken up. The salvos will zone away, and so Knights will clean that up. And in fact, res Scuba as well. So it turns back into a 5v4 the other way, thanks to what Hubert were able to hold on to. But still, M80 have the site and still an Armageddon to hold on to. Here it comes to make sure they have all the space they need for Hubert to not go for the interception where they lied strongest. Still a 3-stack waiting in the tower, and the other 2 on the way back up these steps through vents. Von Bao needs to land at least one. The stealth guard is going to catch him out. No abilities, and Scuba gets ahead of it. Now the full-blown Hubert squad can attack the 3-stack on B site. Is M80 prepared? They simply must be. There is no more room to wait for it. First drop down to clear the close space. Knight's good for the 1 on the opening. Now Caillou good for the 2, and Nismo shut down onto that. It's all down to B-Dog against the 3 in the back line, and T-Dog has made the wraparound happen. M80 will continue to wander with their 6th in purgatory. Sentinels Cubert Academy are your 3rd team to make North American Challengers playoffs.
And wow, Hubert Academy, they looked so good on this. Obviously on that first map, we were seeing Bind be a little bit more evened out between these 2 teams, which both of them have that 3-1 record coming into this. But on Split, oh my goodness me. If you're M80, you have to go back to the drawing board for this map or just ban it completely, because the way that Hubert were running them around, it looked like Hubert was just simply having fun at that point. You could tell that the set strategies were in place. Once again, either going for the aggression, backing off, changing things up, and M80 really couldn't get a good read at what was happening every single time. It felt like they were just kind of walking out there, hoping to try and take some of those gunfights, trying to find some kills, and Hubert Academy were just chilling out, waiting for them to walk into the crosshairs, and then gunned them down. An excellent just overall performance coming out from Hubert Academy, and it really does, this map specifically made them shine as to why they are one of the top teams here in Challengers.
If you ever doubted the cohesion that Sentinels Cubert Academy was capable of, or the individual prowess in the pressure cooker that is Challengers, doubters, be silenced today. This match speaks volumes. We'll head back to the desk one more time tonight, and then we'll call it a night. See you in a bit.
We started extremely late. I kid you not, we have 3 weeks of practice. I said this in the first week. We walked into the first week having 1 week of practice, right? But the amount of work that we've put in compared to everyone else is absurd. It's like an hour and a half to nearly 2 hours of server, 4 blocks, and review afterwards, and with homework afterwards, right? The team is like gelling together pretty consistently. Obviously every team has some days where we're peaking higher than others. I think we recognize what we need to fix instantly, and I think that's what makes this team so special. I always put 100% into whatever team that chooses to play with me. Obviously, Blinn was a more unknown team. It was like a collegiate esports club. While M80 is like, the principal of tier 2, They have made essentially grand finals twice now. You know, so they obviously have that level of prestige to them, and so that obviously has to affect my demeanor as well when it comes to just overall like how I present myself, right? Because I'm right now, I'm not just establishing and representing like, you know, like a group of people that enjoy the game. I'm representing like a high profile organization that has had tons of gravity in the tier 2 scene, right? So I obviously have to hold myself up to a higher standard, and trying to do that. But I'm also blessed and grateful that I was chosen to be able to, you know, fill in the shoes. It's great to work with Don. Don always, you know, keeps us in check. You know, Drew is mainly on the strategic side, and Don is mostly on the performance and mental side. Obviously, we are younger players, so obviously sometimes we can get a bit volatile. You know, not volatile. That might be a bad way to say it, but like, you know, sometimes we do have too much fun in practice, and you know, Don reels us back in, keeps us in line, makes us remember our practice goals, and you know, it's great to have someone that not keeps you in check, but holds you to a professional level 24/7. I've set high expectations for myself this year. I want this year to potentially be a breakout year for me, but at the same time, I can't set too high, because if I set too high and if I don't you know, reach those goals, I'll come down like this extremely fast. So it's just a week at a time. Put all my focus into whoever I play first. So this week I played TSM, and then so that's all. Just 1 week at a time.
And that is the end of the series. 13-6. Qbert ain't playing around. Holy cow, I was not expecting it to be that one-sided after the sort of comeback that we saw from Qbert even after map 1. You can't ever believe what happens in the first half. Vans, that was incredible out of Qbert. What a statement.
Dude, it's kind of ironic because we just mentioned here that Qbert Academy has played the 100 Thieves composition on this map. And then, ironically enough, that I didn't have a chance to talk about is that M80 played the Sentinels comp over the VCTs, where they lost 4-13. But again, it's just fun and games. But overall, the play style around both of these teams was much more different than it was versus that VCT game that I was mentioning before. And that's just very simple, just basic split that I was watching here from the side of Qbert Academy that leveraged like a Sage that kind of threw M80 for a loop here, that funneled their opponents quite well into the loving arms of just the shooting players of Qbert Academy. I think this is just a all-out duel difference from the side of the winning team of Qbert.
I don't think it was just a dual difference. I think there was also a bit of a macro difference with the approach to this map too, right? There's a really strong 9-3 half in favor of Qbert Academy, where we saw them often starting out on the attacking side in a lot of those like 4-1 defaults, and eventually later on grouping up as 5, grouping up into those 2-3 splits as well, and just really playing the numbers to ensure that there is always someone alongside Redux to try and help him set up on sites. And then the defensive side approach, I think we talked about before going into split, was the expectation to try and set up Okeanos for success after how well he played on Bind. The fact that we knew that he was going to have to go up against some of those like earlier engagements at times to try and work past that breach and Taeho utility that's so good at clearing out the mid-section of this map and Be Heaven and Invents. And unfortunately, we saw that he was often left on an island. We saw them playing a bit more of that retake at times, where he'd be playing a bit more forward towards B main solo, the ability to TP back on out, and relying a lot more on like the stall from the rest of the kit of the M80 squad to stall out the rest of the map there for them.
I also think it's like a mental boom from the first map results on Bind, because remember, going into Bind, which is M80's map pick, was a map last season that was a permaban for M80. So when you think that you've cooked something up and you found the solution as to how you can make things work here on your permaban map, and you still lose that when your star duelist in Okeanos has dropped over 20 kills and you still lose, you're carrying that over into the next map saying, oh crap, we thought we had a real answer for a fresh start going into an unplayed map for us from last season. And then you saw the results, unfortunately, here, not as great for Okeanos towards the end of that second half, or the second map rather, here of Split. So I think there's a little bit of that compared to also how well Cubert Academy controlled the tempo and the rotations of the map of Split.
Yeah, we just went from like such a heavy defense fortress map of Vine to then Cuber being able to use the double initiator and showing us how explosive they can be. Because a reminder on that stats page, 9 out of 9 post plants completed. If Cuber were stepping in onto that real estate, you were not taking it away from them. And that 9-3 half like doesn't give M80 a lot of wiggle room to try and come back from that, Ash.
No, it doesn't. And I think a big part why we saw the 9 out of 9 post plants being successful there for Cubert Academy was, again, they would start off in those 4-1 defaults and then eventually look to clear out and see, okay, where was Okeanos playing? They know that he's playing alone. They know that he's playing to TP back and play the retake with the rest of his team. So they would have all that space. Once they push him off of one of those choke points, whether it's A main or B main, he was going to be forced on out. And then they continue to push forward with that. They would take site and then deny a lot of those lanes for the retake out from them. And a big part of that had to do with setting up Redux to get hyper aggressive.
Yeah, just Redux just got a lot more support. And Okeanos just had to wear the K-ball by himself, Vans. Like, tough one. We know Okeanos is capable of so much more, but Redux played with this fearless style, just walking up contact and walking away with corpses behind him.
Yeah, and I definitely felt that Tenrik nailed it, where you're pulling out the Sage here for Cubert Academy, you're utilizing a lot of the Sage util that didn't seem to have a real answer here from M80 when you're trying to cross for mid control, but that just was enough to split, for example, a Euro TP that allows Redux to get a timing, turn around and get a judge kill. Or if they think that they have an entry on one side for M80, you're still funneling the util over on the other end, and Redux still finds a great timing to catch players off guard when the bait comes through from other players. And then also utilizing the Sage util in the very beginning allows a star player like Nismo, for example, to leverage the Tejo utility later on for stalls and retakes, and also for suppressing opponents. So the timings were really good. The utility was great, and that's why, again, I'm mentioning here for Cubert Academy, they just really controlled the map of Split super well here against M80.
It was a clean win and great transition, Vans. W gas, because I actually have Nismo on the line
Nismo
right now for our post-match interview. Hey man, congratulations on qualifying into playoffs and to do it against M80. That must feel extra great.
Thank you. Yeah, it does feel good. It does feel a bit weird also, just being used to playing with M80 and now beating them. So yeah, feels good.
Weird but great at the same time. So
yeah.
But talk to us about Bind first, because how did you have to approach that map when M80 brought out this double controller Senti defense? That looked really tough to go up against.
I mean, it was just like some minor adjustment that we have to do. We got caught off guard a couple rounds. We got ecoed, so it just made the game a bit harder on us. But I think we had control the whole time. We had the right game plan and we executed it properly. So big shout out to the IGLT dog. That was beautiful.
Yeah, you guys handle it. I'm glad that there's just no sweat. You're not even shining at all. Just another day at the office. And well, you're probably gonna have to sweat because playoffs is coming up. That's on the horizon. And I know there's, a few teams we have left to qualify. But I gotta ask you a spicy question. Who are you gunning for in playoffs and how are you gonna take them down?
I mean, we're looking to play anyone, right? At the end of the day, playoffs, you're gonna have to play every team or the best teams that are up there. So looking forward to playing anyone. I would say TSM would be the one I'd love to play. I feel like just playing a different type of roster against them would be fun. So looking forward to playing TSM for sure.
Yeah, and did you guys get some inspo from VCT about the Sage comp? I know like you had Vans nerding out about the Sage thing going on.
I mean, it was all some coaches' ideas. Fits the role properly. Felt like Knight was playing it really well. We tried it in practice and feel like it was just a natural fit for Knights. And yeah, we went with Sage.
Knights is the GOAT. You're the GOAT. I'm so excited for Cubert Academy in playoffs. Thank you so much for joining me and congratulations on playoffs.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Nismo. Got to bring these nerds back, Vans. Coaches' ideas, Knights popping off on Clove or Sage, whatever it be. It's cool to just see all these different comps come out.
In just like Cubert Academy and Sentinel's gear and be like, dude, this is not the same colors that I'm used to seeing Nismo in. It's almost like the ultimate betrayal, but it's a cool story as well for Nismo. It's another chance for redemption, another training arc for the team as well, for Nismo to also prove to the community that despite, you know, people might call this as a boomer age, he still has what it takes to be an amazing initiator for any team. So I think that it's nice that he still brings a lot of confidence to the team. You saw from his ADS and future games as well that he's been quite strong, holding his ground against his opponents.
Yeah, I feel like Ash, he could have talked so much more smack, but so respectful against his former team. But you got to talk smack in playoffs and look at who actually made it. Of course, we qualified TSM and Cubert Academy just now, and we got an update on our Burger Boys Ambrosia match. Unfortunately, saying bye to Ambrosia.
Yeah, tough to say goodbye to Ambrosia there. I think that Burger Boys versus Ambrosia game, it was a bit of a 50-50 on who was necessarily going to take that, but for Burger Boys, they played out of their mind. I'm pretty sure Alvin Boy just had a really great day in the server there as well, and it all just pieced together just in time to save them from elimination. But of course, it's not all said and done yet. They're still on the chopping block down in that 2-3 group.
Chop.
And I cannot wait to see who actually makes it there.
Yeah, we still have to maybe see if M80, YFP, Trust and Plug, like all these huge teams can close it out and get that 4th win, because y'all, we only promote 8 teams to playoffs and the bottom goes to relegation, and we still got another week of matches to go. That's going down in 2 weeks, y'all, so make sure you hit the follow, you get notified when our next broadcast happens, because it's the end of the road and only a few get to go in playoffs. Thank you all so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.
No value, but here we go, engagement. Off the fault line. Okay, at least Steve goes down.
Yeah, good guess on that. Early salvo to get reactive so no one can push on top of it, and that's what made TSM so strong with these showstoppers, but they're still able to make such good use of all this space, and they take their time until they're on the site itself. A razor vine on the corner as well to field out one lone push from YFP, which is... And again, they get ahead of the problem, in front of the main issue, which now has become Penny yet again. There's the fake clone. God. Well, you know, you got a heat check at some point, don't you? TSM Stellar Skull. That is massive. The ground exactly that TSM were looking for. And so YFP will force themselves to get proactive. This time it's Jakey on top of the button, and he'll be able to take down Recoil, leaving B site unabashedly open.
And let's see how Vora wants to respond here. Vora has been doing an excellent job at anchoring down this B site, but this might be a bit of a tall order. Lots of people walking through here, but not looking the right way. Vora holding it down. Plants the flag coming into this next round. As we do see Okeanos back with the Outlaw, and B-Dog just so aware, but can't quite find that kill.
Doesn't really need to do much work, though, now that that Toxic Orb is reduced Cubert to a crisp. Much trouble finding those heads on the swing back. Really tough angles to manage by yourself, which is why you now have some help from beyond the smoke. No Scuba, just waiting for the peek instead, and that's gonna be enough! Oh! Must be, there is no more room to wait for it. First drop down to clear the close space. Knight's good for the one on the opening. Now Caillou good for the 2, and Nismo shut down onto that. It's all down to B-Dog against the 3 in the back line, and T-Dog has made the wraparound happen.